What is up, guys? My name is Pocketcraft and welcome back to another Legendary Monday. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how you can get Lunala and Solgaleo as well as their incredible shiny versions in Cobblemon. Now first things first, these Pokemon don't yet spawn in vanilla Cobblemon, so you'll need the Allthemon's data pack and resource pack installed. You can find a link in the description. Make sure to put it in both folders, data pack and resource pack, and then make sure you go to options, resource packs, and have Allthemon's selected here. Otherwise, this won't work. And then as far as legendaries go, these two are actually pretty interesting because they don't spawn naturally, even with Allthemon's. Instead, like in the normal games, you first have to catch a Cosmog, and then you can evolve it into one of these Pokemon. With Allthemon's data pack enabled, Cosmog spawns in the deep dark biome. He is an ultra rare spawn, and the skylight must be below level 7. Now unfortunately, since Cosmog spawns in the deep dark, you can't use a giant sky platform like we sometimes use to make it easier to find Pokemon. However, if you want to increase the chances of catching Cosmog, you can create a giant rail system in a deep dark biome. It will obviously take some time, but if you can get one of these to wrap around the entire biome, or at least a large portion of it, and then hop in the rail cart and whip around as fast as you can, this is going to be a great way to cycle in spawns really quickly to help you find a Cosmog more easily. We'll give you a couple more tips on how to find and catch Cosmog, and then we'll get how to evolve it and how to find a shiny version. So make sure to stick around to the end of the video, and if this is helpful so far, make sure to smash that subscribe button. We're really pushing to 100k subscribers. We'd love to have you as part of the team, and that way you don't miss out on any updates on legendary Pokemon or other Cobblemon tips. Now that's pretty much the only way to make Cosmog spawn more quickly, but there are a couple ways to make the process of finding Cosmog more enjoyable. I always recommend, if you're trying to hunt for a rare Pokemon, go in with at least some backup plan of what to do. So go in, especially in the deep dark biome, with the idea of mining materials, or maybe with the plan to build a really cool underground structure or farm. I've got a list of the top 10 farms in Cobblemon that you could build, as well as a Pokemon Center build tutorial. I'll link them both in the description. These are great options. And you might be wondering, how does building something or mining help me find a Pokemon more quickly? The answer is it doesn't change the spawn chances, but it allows you to get way less bored. Rather than just running around in circles waiting for a Pokemon to spawn, you do other Cobblemon things that you enjoy and will benefit your world. Since you won't get bored, you'll keep hunting for a lot longer without quitting, which vastly increases your chance of finding one. Because honestly, the biggest reason most people don't find rare Pokemon is they just get bored and give up looking. You can also try and train your Pokemon up to level 100 or things like that while you're hunting as well. And these all kind of accomplish the same function. And while you're hunting, I always recommend that you have the PokeNav mod enabled. That way you can just right click and it'll show you which Pokemon spawn in your area, which makes it way easier to find. This is really important because you can double check that the Pokemon you're looking for actually spawns in your area, so you don't waste time hunting somewhere where it doesn't spawn. I do want to correct myself. I did say earlier that Solgaleo and Lunala don't spawn naturally. That is incorrect. They do spawn naturally, just way more rarely than Cosmog. So you can find Solgaleo in Badlands biomes, but he's one of the rarest ultra rare spawns. As you can see, Groudon here is much more common, same with Regirock and the legendary birds. So you can find him, but it's going to be a lot easier just to hunt for a Cosmog and then evolve it. Now once you have a Cosmog, you want to level it up to level 43, and then you can evolve it into Cosmoem. I think this is a really fun thing about this legendary line, is that it feels a lot more like a normal Pokemon line where you can level them up, rather than a typical legendary Pokemon. And Cosmoem looks super fun in Cobblemon. And then once you get Cosmoem to level 53, I accidentally got him up to level 54 here, you can evolve it into either Solgaleo or Lunala. And so if you want both of these guys, you will have to catch 2 Cosmogs and level it up. But like I said, I do think it's a lot easier to find Cosmog and level it up than it is to find Solgaleo or Lunala in the wild. It's possible, but Cosmog's an easier bet and allows you to EV train and other things while you're leveling up. I know you all want to learn about how to get shiny versions of these Pokemon, so I'll talk about that right now, and then I'll give you some tips on how to actually catch these Pokemon, because it can be very difficult, and since they're so rare, you do not want to fail catching one of these. So these legendary Pokemon are not shiny locked in Cobblemon, so you totally can get a shiny Lunala or Solgaleo, but it's going to be very difficult. Obviously, you will first have to find a shiny Cosmog, which looks like this, and then follow the same process to evolve it into Solgaleo or Lunala. Now there are 2 main strategies to do this. One is obviously if you've seen much shiny hunting things in Cobblemon, you can go in and change the config file to make the shiny rate a lot lower in general. But I know a lot of people aren't fans of this method, so if you don't want to do that, there is a practical method that is still very difficult but doesn't involve changing any of the physical rates. And I think the best option is the Cobblemon Unchained mod. This mod allows you to chain specific Pokemon, like in the other games, where if you continually catch or knock out a Cosmog, it will increase your shiny rate. Now, considering how rare Cosmog is, this is still going to make it very difficult to find shiny versions of these Pokemon, but it's the best strategy to do so without changing the config file. So you'll just have to follow my earlier tips to find Cosmog, and as you increase the chain, it should become more common as well, and then eventually you should hopefully encounter a shiny one. Now, this would be a huge battle, but if you do end up with a shiny Solgaleo or Lunala, it would look super epic. So let me know in the comment section down below if any of you have done that. But like I said, catching these Pokemon is very difficult, and you don't want to fail it, especially if you find a shiny Cosmog. So I'm going to show you how to catch ultra rare Pokemon with a strategy that pretty much will never fail.
We'll use Regigigas for our example because he's massive, which makes things a little bit more fun. So I recommend when you enter the battle to start off always with a quick ball, unless of course if you have a master ball you can just go ahead and use that. But if you have a master ball, you're not really worried about how to catch the Pokemon, so that doesn't really apply here. But if you don't have a master ball, throw a quick ball your first turn. It has a ×5 catch rate, and a lot of times you'll get lucky and catch it on the first throw. And we'll see if we do here. Ooh, we almost got it there. So if you don't catch it on the quick ball, that's where we need more strategy. So I recommend always bringing a Pokemon with False Swipe. Glade is my go-to for a couple of reasons. He has the ability Sharpness, which makes False Swipe do more damage. He also has a pretty high physical attack stat, which helps with this as well. Then typically I recommend trying to get a high IV Glade and then maxing out its attack stat, which I haven't done here for this tutorial. But if you do that with EVs, this is going to be the most effective method. And then put a move like Hypnosis on it, or get another Pokemon with Stun Spore so you can get a status effect, which will also make it easier to catch the Pokemon. As far as other team members, you're just going to want some high level Pokemon that you can switch into if Glade gets knocked out to buy you some time. And then I would usually recommend bringing some max revives as well, so that if Glade gets knocked out and the Pokemon isn't at 1 HP, you can revive them and continue with the process. Then at that point, you just want to False Swipe it down to 1 HP and give it a status condition. And now Glade isn't the only Pokemon that you can use for this. There's other Pokemon with False Swipe. Ninjask is one, Alolan Marowak is one, Scyther, Caesar. There's a couple Pokemon out there. Glade's one of my favorite. I feel like it's one of the most useful, and Breloom is usually the best in normal Pokemon games, but Breloom can't learn False Swipe in Cobblemon, so it's not nearly as useful here. Once you get the Pokemon to 1%, like I said, you want to give it a status condition, and a lot of times Hypnosis is helpful for the main reason that if you are before turn 10, you can use a Dream Ball, which will have 4 times effectiveness if the Pokemon is asleep. So this is going to be your best bet before turn number 10. If the battle gets to turn number 10, then you can go ahead and use a Timer Ball, and this will be the same effectiveness, and it's a little bit cheaper to craft than a Dream Ball. Now once you're to this point, you can just keep following the same process, making sure they have a status condition, throwing either a Dream or Timer Ball based on the situation, and if you do that, you should be able to catch your legendary Pokemon without too much difficulty.
If you follow these tips, you should be able to find Solgaleo, Lunala, and possibly even their shiny forms in Cobblemon without too much trouble. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my Cobblemon Survival Guide series where I teach you everything you need to know about Cobblemon right here. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.